All right, so in this video lesson, we're going to be covering the divs challenge. And this challenge is all about introducing the div tag in HTML. So it's pretty simple to solve this one. Basically in the code editor here, we have these three blocks of content. And the first and the last block of content are grouped inside of this div element. And you can see we can highlight this div and we can see that a div element has no special meaning at all. Okay, that's interesting, but it represents its children. So this is very similar to the span tag that we saw in the last challenge. And the div can be used with the class, lang, or title attributes to mark up semantics common to a group of consecutive elements. So this may not make a lot of sense, but basically what this is saying is the div is just a special HTML element that you can use to group other elements together. You can kind of think of the div as like a box or a container that you can put other elements in. And so the purpose of this challenge is just to take these three paragraph tags here and put them inside of a div. Just like this first title section is included in a div and this footer section is also included in a div. And one more thing before I do this, we can look at the HTML preview over here and we can see what this output looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. We can add a opening div tag here, and then we can add a closing div tag and put a line break, and then we can move these three lines up inside of this div. All right, and so now you can see the two tests are passing and the output hasn't changed at all. The output looks exactly the same. And that's perfectly okay, and that's what we would expect because the div tag on its own doesn't have any impact really on the elements inside of it. However, now you can look at this document and there's a few interesting things going on. One is that now you can more clearly see that this document includes three divs. And so it kind of breaks up the organization of the document a little bit more clearly. And then also you can see in the actual page here, this kind of represents the real structure of the page a little bit more. So for example, we have this title, which is kind of this big element on the top. Then we have this content in the middle of the page. And then we have some footer section at the bottom. And there's not very much styling here, but you can still kind of see how there's these three distinct sections. And so these divs allow us to break up our HTML document into three similar sections like this. And later, when we learn about CSS and how to style HTML documents, that's where you're really going to see the power of using divs, because then we can use these three different divs to apply different styles or different layout to these different elements within our page. And so we'll come to that in a future lesson, but for now, the important thing to note is that the div is a really fundamental HTML element that you're going to use very frequently, and you can group or nest other tags inside of div tags, and you can do that in very arbitrary ways. So for example, here there's three paragraph tags. In the other two divs there's a single heading tag, and we could add other tags too. We could add a B tag here with some bold text, and so you can nest tags in any way that you want inside of these div containers. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.